Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland and Arsenal podcast. I'm Gimli and tonight I'll be joined by... First up, he's been slightly under the weather this week, so we must treat him carefully. You alright, Danny, you fat oaf?
I've got 2 kidneys still. I thought one of them come out yesterday, but it wasn't.
I've called the notes for this podcast Danny's kidney boulders.
It's not. No, it's an infection. That's all it is. And I have people. You don't need to take antibiotics if you get a kidney infection or a urinary tract infection. You need to go and have this stuff called Manos. It's a natural product and it works
properly.
Well, I can't, can I? Because we got rid of the carpet and we got laminate flooring now, and it just doesn't have the same effect.
Jesus, it looks like you've been out in the mud. Right. Next up, recently back after his failure on Dragon's Den to get funding for the Carpenter fleshlight, it's Budget Jesus himself, Kris Carpenter. Hello, Kris.
Hello, mate. How did I know that was going to come up tonight?
So I'll ask you the same question as I did in the WhatsApp group earlier. Is it the Carpenter fleshlight because round by the base they've got some hair that tickles the balls?
It is, and I'll repeat what I said to you earlier. It's also about the massively inflated head as well. So,
I don't think there's much more to say.
We joke, of course, but they are available. Just send me a message and I'll sort you out.
And if you want to know what the Carpenter fleshlight is, you have to go and listen to the After Dark number 2, but not if not if you're under 50.
Quite
sensitive.
Yeah, aptly named the number 2.
Or have any morals.
Jesus, it's just 3 hours of filth. Next up, talk about net spend, fella. Talk about net spend. It's Andrew Fyffe. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Gimli. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Are you recovering from your birthday still?
I am. I think I'm. It's the age is getting to me. The hangovers. I'm suffering now. Now I'm 27. I can't take those 2 pints anymore like I used to be able to.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't the bloody 2 litres of tequila you said you drank.
Yeah, that might have had something to do with it. Yeah, and the depression from Arsenal's result last night obviously got to me as well. But I'm still standing. And I'll be here when I'm 28. Don't you worry.
That's better than Danny, but you'll both have kidney failure.
You know, it's Raj's 49th again tomorrow.
Is it really?
Yeah, still 49. Still hanging on.
He told me he was 57.
Well, you know, you can't argue with him because he'll kill you while you sleep.
You'll love this next intro.
Go on in.
Next up, owner of Lilac Trainers and trademark green Parker jacket. Joining us tonight, it's Mark King.
Hello, lads.
Did you enjoy your intro?
Yeah. I didn't get the tonight bit. Sorry, man.
It's Oasis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
You might be surprised to know that Fyffe helped me with your intro this week.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Fyffe is your stalker.
That does go some way to
In
explain.
fairness to Mark, you did take one for the team. We went up to watch Manchester United against Arsenal back in, I think, March time, and you wore that Parker out of solidarity with the lads, so that the opposition fans would think we're Manx and we would get our fucking heads kicked in.
Yeah,
you wore it.
If we got into any trouble, I was just going to start kicking shit out of you and putting on a Manc accent.
Fair enough.
There's method behind the madness there. And finally, part-time writer for Gunnerstown and Gooner John 777's long-time lover. It's Twitter piss taker, Darren Berry.
For fuck's sake.
I told you they were good this week. What can I say? It took me 2
Excuse
hours.
my cough.
At least you haven't walked off. I suppose we're winning.
Well, maybe me and Guna John are one and the same person. You never know, do you?
Oh, no, that's right. That's a conspiracy theory right there.
He's gone all 9/11 on us. It's a conspiracy. Quick,
I
someone
like the
call
way
Alex
you've licked that
Jones.
this week.
Do you?
Yeah.
Very good.
Right. Over to you then, Danny, for all the scores across the board and a Lone Watch.
Okay, which way round do I do these?
Whatever.
Glad to see you care. Right, last night, the under-19s, because we have under-21s and under-18 leagues, but in the European Champions, UEFA, Europa Cup Winners' Cup League, we have it's under-19s. So we went to Zagreb and we beat them 2-0 with Chris Willock and Ben Sheaf both scoring goals, because that's what you do when you play a shit team. You go there and you fucking hammer them. Friday night, it was an under-21 game. We went to Newcastle, beat them 2-1. Goals from Alex Iwobi and Stefan Mavidi. No. No, it doesn't work with him, does it? And then, because I forgot to do them last week, on Tuesday the 8th of September, West Ham's under-18s come to us. We beat them 1-0 with a 35th minute own goal. And then Saturday the 5th of September, we went to Brighton and we spanked them 4-something. God, I've deleted how many goals they got. I think it's 4-0, maybe 4-1. No, it's 4-2. That was it. 2 goals from Edward unpronounceable. 1 goal from Yassin Fortune and another goal from Savas Morgas.
That unpronounceable, he looks a talent, doesn't he?
I tell you what, you can't have have a name beginning with an NK. That's just not right. Right, Lone Watch. Carl Jenkinson came on as a sub as West Ham beat Newcastle 2-0 as he first came back after being sent off. He's now played 4 games this season. Serge Gnabry, that's for you, Drew. There's no Gnabry in Gnabry, as he's pointed out every time he speaks to me. Was an unused sub as West Brom beat Southampton 2-0. He's played 2 games this season. Ashley Maitland-Niles, Conservative, started as Ipswich beat Leeds 1-0. And he came on as a sub as Ipswich lost 5-1 away at Reading, but they were 4-1 down by the time he came on. So he's 7 games, no goals. Isaac Hayden was an unused sub against Cardiff as Hull beat them 2-0. And he started as Hull lost 1-0 to Brighton. So far, 7 games, no goals. Chupa Apcom. He came on as a sub for Hull as they beat Cardiff 2-0. He started the game where they lost 1-0 to Brighton. 8 games, 2 goals. Emilio Martinez. He started Bolton. I don't know what Wolves are doing with their goalkeepers. They seem to swap them around every other game. Stupid. He started in Wolves' 2-1 loss to Bolton. And then he was an unused sub when Wolves beat Charlton 2-1. So he's played 7 games this season. The number of appearances off the Arsenal site, and they're notoriously shit for updating it, but the rest of it is my own info that I dug up. John Terrell, future Spain legend. He started both the games as Birmingham City lost 1-0 to Nottingham Forest and then spanked Bristol City 4-2. 6 games, 2 goals this season. Wellington Silva, he started both Bolton games as they drew 0-0 with Sheffield Wednesday and beat Wolves 2-1. 3 games, no goals for him so far. Dan Crowley, future England legend, started both games as Barnsley lost 2-1 to Shrewsbury and then they beat Scunthorpe 2-1. 7 games, 1 goal this season. Washak Szczesny, are you typing anything important in the window as I'm writing?
No, he's really not.
Okay, because it's flashing away like a dirty old man. Washak Szczesny started last night as Roma drew 1-1 with Barcelona, but he broke his finger and he's out for 6 weeks. So the Arsenal injury crisis isn't only stuck to North London, it's now made its way to Italy, which is nice. And at the weekend, it was Roma beat Frosinone 2-0. Oh, I don't know how you say that. So he's played 4 games for him, and now he's going to be out for probably ages. So 6 weeks probably means he's out till Christmas. Bloody hell, someone order a noisy motorbike with no lights? Excellent. Yaya Sanogo. What? I
was going to say, is that you done?
No, you got 2 more.
Carry
I saved
on.
the best one for last. Yaya Sanogo, who's absolutely not ripping up any... Poirot Bagaragra, I've got a penalty. Come on! Oh, they're beating Spurs 1-0!
How far are you behind? That happened about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, no.
I'm watching
They are
BT
losing
Sport.
to a carrier bag.
Now, what minute are you on? I'm on 6:22, 23.
7:24.
That's not 20 minutes, is it, you fucking dirty pirate?
Might as well be. Carry on.
You and your stolen gold.
Carpenter out.
Yes. Right, so Sanogo, he played at the weekend as... he came on as a sub as Ajax drew 2-2 with Twente, and they were 2-0 down at one point, and they're playing tonight. I think they drew 2-2 with Celtic, and he wasn't even on the bench, so he's had 4 games, all as sub, no goals. And Gideon Zelalem,
No.
he is ripping up trees up north, as they say. He played as Rangers beat Livingston 3-0. What are these pricks? I'm going to get my fucking gun. They played as Rangers beat Livingston 3-0 and they beat Raith Rovers 5-0. He has started 4 games since being there. They've won all 4. They've scored 18 goals, conceded 0. Absolutely brilliant. So, Mr. Carpenter, give us some pirate info.
I will give you some pirate info. Played 2 games since we last spoke since you last did an update. We beat Riverside Saints 9-1. Last, not this Sunday just gone, but the previous Sunday. That was in one of the 4 cups that were in, local cups. That included a hat-trick for Callum Knight, who's in very good goal-scoring form. So that was a good result. So we're into the next round of that competition. Last week, not so good. We went out of the Devon County Cup to Needicab. Yes, that's their name. 3-1, but they were the champions of our league last year and now a league above us. So no shame in that. It was... 1-1 at half time, and we shipped 2 in the second half, and probably the better team on the day won. So hands up on that one. We've got. Go on.
I was going to say, was there anyone on the sidelines that shouted out, "Taxi"?
There probably should have been, because that's surely the customary joke every time. But no, they're a good
to
side.
go and watch a Pirates game.
Well, you do. Maybe, yeah. They're a good side. So we went out of the Devon County Cup, and then this week we've got another cup game in the Ken Rickard League Cup, which is the equivalent of the Capital One Cup in real world. We're playing the Southway, who we've played a number of times over the past few years in friendlies. So we'll be looking to hopefully progress on Sunday. 10:30 a.m. kickoff. All is good. All is well. And we're interested in, or we're looking to sign another new defender in the coming weeks as well, who's quite a high level. So things are on the up, and we're doing well. So
See, you surprised me, Kris, because I didn't think that these type of players were available.
Well, you'd be surprised, mate. You'd be surprised what you can find if you get your dick on the case. Obviously, Arsenal aren't very good at using their dick, but we use our dick very well, and we get the good players.
That's lovely to hear. We'll start tonight's podcast, which I've themed the good, the bad, and the ugly, by starting with the good, which is Saturday's home win against Stoke. So for his thoughts, we'll go over to Andrew.
Hello. I was there. I was sat next to some not very good company, but nonetheless, the game was brilliant. I thought Arsenal, on the whole, played well. Stoke really didn't turn up on the day whatsoever. In fact, I was extremely disappointed. There's been a lot of rhetoric this summer about how Stoke are now becoming a footballing side, and we're going to see some, champagne Barcelona style football from Sparky. But they really didn't test us whatsoever. Albeit the defence played extremely well. I thought Gabriel, his people's there, and Nutovic certainly carried favour with the crowd, and Bellerin for me was our man of the match. I think I was slightly concerned with just how how profligate in front of goal we continue to be, especially Walcott. I think obviously he took his goal very well. He opened his body, maybe slightly lucky on the touch, although it was a beautifully constructed ball from Ozil. But if you look at him, he's gone and he's missed 4 or 5 key chances in the game, and you can argue that he's getting himself into the right positions, but it's extremely worrying when you, for me anyway, it's worrying that between Ramsey and Sanchez, we didn't look like we had much width in the final third. Both of them only put over one cross each. I think between them as well, they only had 7 take-ons, and they only created 1 chance between the pair of them. Theo, he had 8 shots, 1 goal. His pass completion rate was only 70%, which was much lower than the rest of the team. So those players in the final third for me didn't look to be at the same. They weren't at the races like Kafala was in the middle of the park. Ozil creating 8 chances in the game, and as I said, Bellerin. It's a bit of a concern at the minute. We had 29 shots. I think is a bit of a record so far this season, and to only put 2 of them into the back of the net, obviously I don't want to take too much away from the fact that we played very well and we kept Stoke completely at bay. Czech was solid again, but I'm starting to get a little bit concerned with just how wasteful we are in front of goal. I think actually this season now, in terms of clear-cut chances missed by Premier League players, the top 3 players in order are Walcott, Giroud, and Sanchez, with 6, 5, and 4. So it was concerning, but overall we got the 3 points, which is all that matters. But you'd like to think that we're going to see them sharpen up in the final third a bit.
And Darren, Theo scored now for his 9th successive Premier League season. Is it wrong for people to say that he shouldn't play up front, or for you, is he just not good enough?
It's a tricky one for me. I personally, I don't think it's his position at all. He misses too many chances. He's getting himself in the right positions, obviously, but I don't know. He just seems to hide a bit sometimes as well, and just in some sort of games he becomes isolated. So I don't know. It's a tricky one for me. I think if anything, if we're going to make a judgment on it, he needs to have a good run of games up there. But Time will tell with that one.
Yeah, definitely
For
so.
me.
And Mark, Giroud wrapped up the game late. He was booed this week for France, and apparently, according to Andrew, by some of our supporters at the end. Is that harsh on him?
I didn't really notice any of our supporters booing him. I think Giroud's still, as much as you see people on Twitter digging him out, and a lot of people think, he's not good enough to be the centre forward for Arsenal, but that's not his fault. I think he's still got a lot of support from the fans. I don't think he's helped himself last night, but I still think most fans are behind him, and he missed a really, really good chance not long after he'd been on, and his goal was a nice sort of centre forward's goal. More to do with the cross in his head, but. I think Giroud. I think talking about Giroud needs to be more when we get to the ugly part of the conversation later. I think.
Definitely so. Kris, we dominated this game, and we've seen it many times this season. To think off the top of my head against Newcastle, we just had a succession of chances that we couldn't put in the back of the net. Now, I know the Stoke goalkeeper was absolutely on top form for the day, but should we really have scored more goals in this one?
We probably should have done, to be honest. I mean, it's also a little bit. Don't get me wrong, Jack Butland had a superb game, but kind of linking to your point there, how many shots did we put straight at him? There was only really 2 or 3 of those saves that were properly stretched sort of saves. So, yeah, you could say he had a very good game, but equally, if we finish those chances, he's had a terrible afternoon. So it kind of depends which side of the fence you fall on. But the wider point is a valid one. We do need to be more clinical. It is a little bit Groundhog Day. I mean, we've been saying we need to be more clinical probably since Thierry Henry left, and how long ago was that? So it's not a new problem. It's very much an old problem. Would a world-class striker come in and change that? Possibly. But I'm sure we'll come on to things later on with regards to it's not always the strikers. It's also about how we create the chances. But like you say, on Saturday, there was a lot of chances that really... a high-level, ice-cold centre-forward would probably take 2 or 3 of those chances. I feel for, just touching on Theo, I 100% agree with what Darren said there. I'm with Darren on this, and I know John Welsh has said the same on our radio show. For me, he's just not a centre-forward, and however many goals he scores, like the one he did last night, or like the one he does against Stoke, he'll always miss 3 more in the same game, and that's kind of my frustration with him. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to bury any of our players. It's not really my way. But I just think that a club that wants to win a Premier League title or a Champions League title, I think we can do better than relying on Theo Walcott as our first choice centre forward.
Just to butt in there, sorry, but I don't think it'd even take a world-class centre forward to be putting away. I think if we had someone like Eduardo in the team,
absolutely. Yeah.
Eduardo, he wasn't world-class, but he was a finisher. I think last year I saw some stats. It was on Sky Sports, I think, and they were saying that they looked at the Premier League 2014-2015 season, and they looked at the minutes per chances missed. And Theo Walcott missed a chance, a clear-cut chance as well. Not just a chance, but a clear-cut, which I think Opta Statistics said was what you could reasonably expect them to score from. And he missed one every 55 minutes, which was, by far the the highest churn. I think the next one was Murray from Palace, which was every 110 minutes, something like that. So, it's extremely wasteful. And you've got players like Kaffour and Ozil who are topping the charts in terms of numbers of chances created. And we just don't have the ability to put the ball in the back. Well, obviously, we do, but we don't have the ability, the ruthlessness to be putting the ball in the back of the net as much as we should.
Do you think Theo might get any better with a longer run up front as a striker, though? Because he's not really had a sustained run up there, has he?
He's not, and he's certainly a confidence player. That's one thing I will say about him. He is the kind of guy, when he does have a run in the team. One thing that he's really, obviously, injuries with Theo is a huge problem, right? Isn't it? And so every time he goes out, and he's out for 3 or 4 months, it takes him a good handful of games to get back into a rhythm. And then it seems like he just gets another unlucky injury, doesn't he?
But the other thing is as well, we're talking about Theo, he's due a testimonial next year, so it's kind of like, how much longer are we waiting before we do it? Surely if Wenger thought he was going to be a centre-forward, we wouldn't have seen the likes of Arshavin playing up front, or Shamak getting as many games. Where was Theo playing up front back then?
Injured, probably.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other point, isn't it? Is how long it is he can sustain fitness. So I don't know. I mean, and then the annoying, or not annoying, but the frustrating thing with Theo is you look last night, you give him one chance, finishes it really well. Yet, and again Saturday he had 4 chances and he missed 3 sitters and scored the really difficult one. So he drives you mad because he's kind of such an enigma, and you can see why some people think yes he can play centre forward, and some say he never will as long as he's got a hole in his arse.
No, that's very true. Danny, we've not really heard from you on this one. Giroud, Walcott. I mean, how would you assess their performances over the course of the season so far? I know you were one of those people that wanted a big name striker in the summer.
Oh, I thought you were going to add more to the end of that.
No,
I only wanted one to give those two a kick up the arse that they both need. But Theo has scored, including last night, 11 goals in his last 11 starts. And he has scored 6 goals in his last 8 games, whether he be a sub or started. And that's just not bad form for someone who's a striker who's...
He has made a lot of appearances off the bench.
He has indeed. But you look at the game against Stoke, we had 29 shots at goal. 29. They had 9. We had 12 on target. Now, on target, for people who don't know, that means goals that should have gone in. And that doesn't include the ones that are blocked. So that they should have gone in and he didn't. He missed. And they had 9. They had 9 off target. We had corners 13-1, 817 touches, and we had a possession of 66%. And then to only beat those 2-0. I watched Match of the Day twice, and I'd like to get Theo, and I'd like to sit him down or sit on a table. I don't know, whatever the cool kids do these days. Get a chair and sit on it back to front. That's what they do. And say to him, look, Theo, look, this is you this season. How on earth are you putting the ball wide, putting it over, putting it at the goalkeeper? And then, like Mark was saying, he nutmegged the goalkeeper, didn't he? With that superb ball from Ozil. That when Ozil finally decides to leave Arsenal because he's sick and tired of it, that is going to be on his what's it called when you have a video compilation of all your best bits? Well, highlights reel. That'd be on his highlights reel, because that was almost a FIFA-esque type ball. Oh, Dora's coming to say hello.
The other thing, just to expand on that quickly as well, is there has always been this kind of thing that people have said, and me included, I hold my hands up on this one, where we've said that Theo is at his best when he doesn't have to think about it, when he's just instinctive. Well, look at the chance he missed against Newcastle. That blows that one out of the water, because that was an instinctive finish that he didn't have to think about. All he needed to do was get his foot on it and put it above a goalkeeper from near post from 5 yards, and he missed that as well. So I'm not sure it's an instinctive thing. I think it's a confidence thing. And, like Darren said, he's going to get the opportunity now. I think he'll start on Saturday, funny enough. And obviously he's going to have to start now against Olympiacos. This is a massive show in faith. Whatever you think of us not bringing in a striker, and, we've done that to death. But this is the biggest show of faith he could ever have. So if he doesn't take it now, he's only really got himself to blame.
But you look for the last few seasons, we've been going, we're scoring loads of goals. Last season, 109. Season before that, 99. Season before that, 104 goals. But the problem was we were conceding too many goals. Last season, 53, 57 and 60. Finally, we've got a goalkeeper. We've had 3 clean sheets in a row. Finally, our defence seemed to be almost watertight, like the good old days when we could actually defend. And what happens? Everyone stops scoring. Sanchez isn't scoring. Santi, his days of scoring are well behind him. Ramsey is a player who is a confidence player. He's not really having much of a chance to score. Giroud, the French lamppost, couldn't score if you showed him how to score a goal. And it's just typical that now that we've sorted out our back, the team's doing their job. The back half of the team are doing their job as they should do. Don't let a goal in. So all it means is one of the strikers is to score a goal, or one of the attacking midfielders. Just need one goal, and then we're going to win most games. And what do? Do shit all for quite a lot of the time. But we have been on a decent run. But 3 clean sheets in a row, I think that's well done to the defenders and Czech. But I just can't. The most memorable bit of that game was the Ozil ball to Walcott. That was just a thing of beauty.
So this win leaves us 4th in the league table. I guess the real question is, can we mount a successful title challenge? Darren?
A successful one, or just a title challenge?
Either or.
Judge me in May, I was going to say then. But no, well, I think we can. I thought before the start of the season the squad could mount a challenge, yeah. We've not started as well as obviously any of us would like to have done. It's been very slow the way we started, but I don't see why not, honestly. If we can just start to click, you never know. I'm a positive person anyway. I always go into every season thinking we're going to win the league. Even if we had Sanogo up front on his own, I still think we was going to win the league anyway. So, yeah, probably the wrong person to ask.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. Mark, we'll come to you next. Would a win against Chelsea at the weekend make you believe or put you in the right direction to think that we can actually do things this season?
Well, I think, the thing is that we've got to consider that obviously the changes he made was with a view to the Chelsea game, and we'll come to whether that was right or wrong. But what we should see on Saturday is what he considers to be our first choice team. And when you see our first choice team, I mean, a lot of us probably are fairly confident that our first choice team can compete and beat any other team in the league. The problem that we've got is that after you get past those 11 players, we've probably not got a lot of too much super quality in depth, and also we're going to have to rely on them. If we want to be in 3 competitions, you need to rotate, and also the problems that we get with injuries. So you would need that. So I think our first 11, if we can beat Chelsea, it puts us back on track. But it just makes you more frustrated that maybe we couldn't have added just a little bit more quality in depth. And I think last night has probably showed that a little bit, and proved it to be the case.
And with that said, then we will move on to last night. We've done the good, which of course was Stoke. So let's do the bad. Kris, can we get some analysis of the? I can't even think of anything to call it. Just last night's game.
Well, at the risk of multi what's the word? I can't think of the word. No, I can't think of the word. It's gone. But covering all platforms, shall we say? We did the radio show last night, and we had a fairly measured and a fairly kind of grounded debate, and tried to keep it positive as much as you could, and we tried to look at exactly what went wrong. And in hindsight, having slept on it, so much went wrong. It's really hard to sort of pick up what the main issue was. There's a lot of responsibility that has to be levelled at the players. There's a lot of responsibility that has to be levelled at the manager. I don't think either or are more to blame than each other. There were so many such basic faults last night. I made the point on the radio show last night that we had, if you looked at the team, people were sort of moaning after the event, saying, "Oh well, we picked the wrong squad," blah blah blah. Well, you look at that lineup, that squad that we put out there, that should have been more than enough to beat a side that has struggled to, have never beaten an English opposition, that have been beaten by Real Madrid 6-2 a couple of seasons ago. No games are easy. See Monaco last year. But we really should have been going there. And at the very worst, coming away with a draw, we'd have gone, okay, it's a draw, that's fine, away from home, tricky conditions, blah, blah, blah. To lose, I think it sends the wrong message out to our competition. Bayern Munich must be sitting there going, okay, well, that's us through then, which means we probably end up second in the group, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, it's a real concern. And the performance, there were so many what I would call fringe players, or players that you really wanted to come in and take their opportunity and, really grasp the opportunity to play for first team place. And they just didn't do that. I'm sure we'll touch on Giroud, but for me, the 2 fullbacks were a huge worry. I like Mathieu Debuchy, but I think he's a sort of player that I don't think he can come in and do a job every once in a while. I think he's a player that has to get consistent games, which he's not going to get with the emergence of Bellerin. Kieran Gibbs, for me, has gone backwards to the point where I don't even think he's good enough backup. I genuinely think that way. I'm a fan of Mikel Arteta, and I know, I'm sure Mark has got a dartboard with his face on because I know he's not a big fan. But, I do like Mikel Arteta, but, I went to bat for him. I said, look, he can play certain games. He can probably give us something throughout the season. But for me, an away game in Croatia, first game of the Champions League, when he hasn't played any football for the best part of 6 months, was not the game to be throwing him into. I understand why they rested Coquelin. I really do. But surely Ramsey would have been the logical one to play in that position. Or even Flamini, just somebody with a bit more of an engine, a bit more tigerish. And obviously the stats that are flying around about the 0% this, 0% that, stats are all well and good. I'm sure there were other players that had just as bad a night, but that's the biggest worry for me. Players had an opportunity, they didn't take it. I wanted to touch on Oxlade-Chamberlain, but I'll do that a bit later. But it was just a real abortion of a performance.
Mm. And we will analyse the team now and who didn't travel and who didn't play. Danny, we had Bellerin, Mertesacker and Ramsey didn't travel. Was he wrong not to take them?
Well, I think you've got to look at it from the point of view these are like the loss to West Ham. They're not a rival. It's going to make no difference to us at the end of the season. Losing to these home is an it was a shit game, shocking display. But we had, again, all the stats are on our side. We should have won the game. But we aren't going to be fighting these for first or second place either. These are going to finish bottom of the group. The other teams are going to go there and going to hammer them. Between these and Olympiacos, I know usually we lose the last game of the season of the group to Olympiacos, but I look at it from the point of view of personally, I'd have played Czech because maybe that's the only way you could get Ospina to stay, was to say you're being our Champions League goalie, and I hope that isn't, because Czech has been brilliant. If Czech would have played, we would have won that game 1-0. There's no way Czech would have mucked up the way that would have allowed the back four to muck up. Well, I don't know, I'm just guessing that. So, yeah, I'd have played Czech. With those players, I think what would be more important, playing a few reserve players here and having all the other players fresh for Saturday. Which game would I rather win? Which is the Chelsea game. We shouldn't have gone there and lost, no matter what. Even if we had played all of our reserves, we shouldn't have lost that game. Because even we've got Luka and my friend Herman, who are both Croatian, and Herman was at the game, and they're both Gooners, and they are both saying this team is shit. We should beat them 4 or 5-0. They're absolutely rubbish. And then the whole display was rubbish. I mean, the first 15-20 minutes of the game, we looked decent, and then you look at our stats, and it was 14 shots on goal compared to their 13, and we had 5 on target, 6 off target, but we had the ominous touches of 666. I think that's where it went wrong. It was the devil's number, wasn't it? 60% possession as well. Can't say it's just one of those nights, because one of those nights happens to us more often than not, and it's so annoying. But I think we were talking before the pod, and Mark was saying that if Giroud would have been playing, where that goal went in, that's where Giroud would have been stood.
Yeah, very true. We'll also talk about the players that didn't actually make it into the team but travelled. So we got Czech, Monreal, Coquelin, and Walcott didn't even start. So, Mark, with those 4 in the team, would the result have been a different story?
Well, you obviously I think so, and hindsight is brilliant. But I think if you go back to what Kris said, if you looked at the team we put out, whilst I think a lot of us were probably worried at 6 players that you would consider in our first 11 being missing was a lot, you would probably think that team should have enough quality in it to certainly not lose a game against what looked to me like a very ordinary Champions League side. There was absolutely nothing that stood out about that team other than that they worked very hard. So, you then have to say, well, why have we managed to throw ourselves under the train again in Europe with a really poor display against a weaker side? How do we consistently fuck ourselves up the arse so often when there are good enough players to get a result? It happens too many times that you have to say, well, why? When you look at it, is it so shoddy? There has to be a reason that collectively they fall apart. And I mean, obviously, everyone knows my views on it. To me, there is only one common theme to it always happening. So I don't know. But if somebody could give me other reasons, great, please do. But we should not, with that side, have lost that game. But,
no.
And possibly without Giroud's complete head twat that he did, then I think with 11-11 we'd have probably been all right. But other than that, I just don't know. I can't understand how we managed to lose that game.
And Darren, you've claimed in this podcast that you are the optimist. Was there any optimism coming out of last night? I mean, the main question would be, why do you mess about with the starting lineup in the kickoff of a Champions League game? Surely to get 3 points under the belt is a priority, isn't it?
Well, the main bit of optimism for me was that I didn't actually see the game. So, and I had a really nice burger. I was out for my son's birthday, so I can't really comment much on the game. But again, it goes back to, resting players ahead of the Chelsea game. But I can't really argue with any points that Mark's made there either about why this keeps happening all the time. That team were good enough to go out, and so I can't really see any positives to come out of that at all. Even me.
No.
The thing is, though, like Chelsea
It
made
was a nice
6
burger
changes.
that I had, though.
Chelsea made 6 changes last night, didn't they not? And they still managed to see off weaker opposition in the Champions League. So whilst it is obviously, a concern, and we can point and if we're being forensic, suggest that's why we lost, but it's just not an excuse, is it, to go to Dinamo Zagreb, which and no disrespect to them, they're a team in the Champions League. They've won their domestic league. They're obviously
unbeaten in 41 games in all competitions.
But a club the size of Arsenal, the quality of the players on the pitch, the salaries they are, that we shouldn't be losing to Dinamo Zagreb, regardless of the number of changes we've made. We're Arsenal. If we've got £70 million to spend, and we put our team with 6 changes, and they can't beat Dinamo Zagreb, then we shouldn't be worrying about not being able to sign only world-class players in the transfer window. We should be thinking about buying players good enough in the squad which can improve us enough that we can actually make a few changes and beat a team well below us in terms of quality. So it's really, really concerning. Don't get me wrong, I do think that on another day we'd go out there and would beat them with the same 11. These things happen, but you do have to. There are concerns about the mentality of the team there. Did we underestimate them? There's conversations. I think there's remarks that they use Slaven Bilic to help them. To help them with their scouting against Arsenal. I think he said the same at the start of the season. Arsenal underestimated West Ham. So, there's questions. Is there some complacency? I'm not sure what it is exactly, but it is definitely a concern, and I think it goes deeper than just making 6 changes, because Chelsea showed last night that's not the, you should be able to comfortably make 6 changes when you're in our league and still see off Dinamo Zagreb.
So, you're playing the blame game, Andrew. For you, where do you place the blame?
It's a shit show from the top to the bottom. These kind of results. I think when you go away when you lose to a team like Dinamo Zagreb, it's not specifically one person that you blame here or there. As we mentioned before, Olivier Giroud doesn't get himself sent off, and we probably don't lose the game. But you don't make. The players need to obviously pick it up in these situations. They shouldn't be going out there and playing as poorly as they did. But at the same time, the manager needs to make sure they go out there with the right attitude. So I think it's not. Whilst I know people love having one person to pick out and one person to blame, I think it's just a shit show across across the various functions of the club in that respect. And it's just not unacceptable. And every single person in the club last night, should feel bad and should feel, as though they should have done better or could have given better. And it shouldn't just be, a case of Wenger this or Giroud that. It was just, a poor performance from Arsenal Football Club across the board.
A clusterfuck.
Yes, mate.
Yes, but it's something we've seen this season. The game at West Ham, that was an atrocious game to have to view. But we should talk about the Giroud sending off now. Now, is there anyone that believed that he deserved to be sent off? Do you think it was, maybe a harsh decision? Danny, did he deserve to walk for you?
He should have shut up and carried on doing his game and try and score a goal rather than arguing with the ref and being petulant. Fucking idiot. A man of his age should learn not to do that. I think the whole not scoring goals, everybody booing him, is getting to him. And if it is, then you shouldn't be playing football. You should act like a man. It's never silly to see Ian Wright all crying because he's not scoring goals. He'd just go up, elbow someone in the face and score a goal. So he's an idiot.
Fair enough, Chris.
It's hard to defend the. I mean, I did think that the second booking was a little bit harsh. And all I mean by that is that if he hadn't been on a booking, I'm not sure he'd have been booked for that. But what Danny says to a slightly lesser degree is true. The man, he's a grown adult. He's 29 years of age. I know he's got the sort of the Gallic kind of temperament, and he can be a little bit wind-upable, if that's not even a word I've just made up. But no, he's a professional footballer, and you've got to know that when you go to these sort of countries, when you are clearly the better team, you've got to know that defenders are going to wind you up. You've got to be able to judge that, and your temperament has got to be correct for that. And we've seen that. Player like Diego Costa, for example, is another prime example. You can get at him, and if you do, he's useless. And that was the same with Giroud last night. The minute that they got at him, and the minute he started doing the finger wag and the moaning and complaining, the referee, for me, you could see he was waiting for him to do something to send him off. It was almost like he'd given him 3, 4, 5 warnings. And my biggest concern about the whole event with Giroud is a lack of leadership from the rest of the team. Who was getting hold of him and saying, look, you're being a pillock. Would Martin Keown have let that slide? He would have been in his face, have him up by the shirt saying, no, you're playing for Arsenal Football Club. You get your head out your arse because we need you. We need you in this game, and we need you to provide the focal point. That was the biggest concern. But you have to walk, and being booked for dissent is unforgivable at any level of football. I fine my players £10 on a Sunday morning if they do that, because it is unforgivable. I've never ever seen a referee change his decision and say, oh, sorry about that. Actually, yeah, I was in the wrong. Let me reverse that decision. It's never happened. So just get on with the game and prove that you're the better player by sticking one in the net, not getting sent off like a petulant child.
I was going to say petulance is probably the word that stands out for me. I mean, we're talking about Giroud struggling to put the ball in the back of the net, getting booed, at international level, a couple of whistles around the stadium at full time. He doesn't do himself any favours, does he, Darren? I mean, why, like Kris said, why when he's in these situations is he not getting his head down and putting the ball in the back of the net? It doesn't make any sense, especially when, Walcott's breathing down his neck to be the central striker. It's, like I said at the start, it's just petulance, isn't it?
Yeah. So I can't argue with any of the points that the others have put across there. He just needs to man up, doesn't he? To throwing your hands up you just know when he's going to have one of those games as well. You can tell early on. Like I said, I didn't see the game last night, but obviously, if your first yellow card is for dissent, the ref's not going to. It's not going to take much for a ref to send you off, whether you deserve a second yellow or not. He's going to be looking for you, and yeah, like the guys say, he doesn't do himself any favours at all. And I like the guy. I think he gets a bit of unfair stick as a player. But, and again, he's a confidence player as well. We seem to have so many players in the squad, in the team, that are confidence players. And it does seem to affect him more than any of the others as well. And for a striker, that's not good because there's not really any place to hide, is there?
No, not at all. Mark, I want to come to you next. And one of the main questions, and this will probably take you about 5 minutes to answer this, but does this game highlight our failures in the transfer window?
Well, it kind of does to a certain extent, and then it doesn't. I mean, you can look at it both ways. I mean, the whole thing, everybody knows how I feel about Arteta. And, he came on and he played, 10, 15 minutes at Palace. And the people who still have faith in him are saying that he can do, he can still do a job against lower Premier League teams and that. And I was never convinced. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, and I can understand he's great to have around the club. But we're a professional football club trying to compete at the top level. We're not a fucking social club. Make him non-playing club captain. Let him do his badges. Let him be the players' rep and organise shit like that. But the guy is simply not good enough to play at this level anymore. Cthulhu was visibly impacted by having Arteta next to him. Cthulhu's game went to shit as well because he doesn't have Coquelin there to do what Coquelin and no one else in our squad does. So does it go back to there being no one available in the entire footballing world that could have provided better cover for Coquelin? I can understand that maybe we couldn't have found a better DM than Coquelin, but that couldn't have provided better cover than Arteta. I think that is just the biggest piece of bullshit that we've heard this summer. So from that point of view, yes, it does. The other guys, would we look to be strengthening now? I mean, you're not looking to go out and buy, can you go out and keep trying to find a better left back than Gibbs when Gibbs should be playing better than he did last night? Are you looking to buy a better right back than Debussy when Debussy, we know he's capable of playing better than he was last night? No, you're not. You can't just keep going and improving on every single position because the level of player we need is so high now. But in certain positions, and definitely in Arteta's one, it did show that we needed someone. And I think you could also look at the fact that Joel Campbell came on, and I mean, I'm not being funny, but Joel Campbell shouldn't be at this club. If Palermo had stumped up enough money, he wouldn't have been. So fuck knows who we'd have brought on a left wing. So it is part of the whole problem about the transfer window. Was that 5 minutes?
No, it was perfectly good enough. So the question is, where do Arsenal go from here? And the answer to that is Chelsea at 1:45 on Saturday. So we'll discuss this game a little bit, how we think we should set out our store for them. Of course, I think it's going to be a very, very difficult game, but not an unbeatable one. I think we can go there and we can get a result. But Kris, we'll come to you next. Is there anyone who should be dropped for this game?
Crikey, that's a loaded gun, isn't it? I don't know about dropped. I think there will be changes because I think it was clear that Petr Cech will obviously come back in. I think that Aaron Ramsey will come back into the side and Coquelin will come back in. And obviously Theo is, well, I say obviously, I think Theo will start through the middle. So I don't know about necessarily dropping. I do think those changes need to happen. I'm probably completely alone in this, but I've got a sneaking feeling we'll go there and do them. I don't think there's any better time to play them. I know they beat Maccabi Tel Aviv last night. Well, to be honest, you would expect them to win at home, and yeah, I know you'd expect us to beat Zagreb, but the home advantage in Europe particularly has a massive effect on lesser teams who just really don't do travel, and you can line them up. There's a list of them that really don't travel well, and some of them are quite big sides, I'd say as well. So, I don't think that they're fooling anyone. Their best player is massively off form in Eden Hazard, and I think that a lot of what goes through Chelsea goes through him, as well as a certain previous number 4 of Arsenal, who we shall not mention, who, by the way, is on the pies, I think. I think only my waistline's bigger than his at the moment, but I do think that we can go to Stamford Bridge with optimism. Interesting to see how much the defeat last night takes out of the team. That will be my worry, because they do strike me as a little bit mentally fragile at times, which is ironic given the sort of the mental strength thing that we've been over time and time again. But I do think we can go there. I do think we can hurt them. The biggest problem we're going to have is it's going to be all about taking chances, and that's what we've obviously spoken about previously in this pod already. That's my worry. Are we going to create chances? And if we do create them, we have to take them, because I can't see us going to Stamford Bridge and coming away with another 1-0, because I'm just not sure our defence is good enough to, at this stage, to keep a clean sheet at a ground like Stamford Bridge. And I just worry that Chelsea have got a few players that have been so out of form. You just know that the time will come where they come back into form, because they're too good at players, let's be honest, to stay as shit as they have been. But I do think we can get something from the game. The only other point I wanted to make, if I may, was on Oxlade-Chamberlain. I don't know if you got that later on, but can I make that point now?
Go for it now, Kris.
I just have this issue with certain people that back players, irrespective of their form. Ox is one that worries me, and not so much because of his ability, because I think the lad has got tons of ability. I just wonder whether he'd be better suited modifying his game to playing centrally, which I know is difficult because we've got so many players that want to play in that central role. But I look at a game like last night, for example, and I wonder his energy, his frame, his directness. I just wonder if he'd be better off trying to focus on more of an inside player. I don't think he's a winger for me, and I worry about this somewhat myth that he's a good dribbler and that he gets up and down the flank. Well, look at his marking for that goal last night, the first goal. I mean, people immediately launch into an attack on Theo when he doesn't track his runners. I think Ox is just as bad, and I'm not sure that the fault lies in the player. I wonder if it's because of how we're asking him to play. I know his old man thinks that he should be a central midfielder, and as he gets older, he may be moved in there. So I just wonder. Whereas I know a player like Aaron Ramsey, okay, yeah, people moan that he's playing outright, blah blah blah, but I think Aaron's such a good footballer that and he does protect the players behind him quite well. I think that he's got the ability to come inside and play from that right hand side, but still cut in. But I think you need more energy in the middle, and I just wonder if Oxlade-Chamberlain could be the future in that position, because at the moment I see so many people that say, "Oh, Ox has got to play. He's got to play. He's got to play." Well, every time he has played, other than the Charity Shield, to be perfectly honest, for me, he's flattered to deceive. So I just wonder whether some people have their favourites, and I know some people say the same about Koscielny. And the same about who's the other one that people think? Well, Ramsey. To be fair, a lot of people have their favourites, so they say they should never be dropped, irrespective of their form. But for me, Ox falls into that category as well.
Andrew, we've not heard from you. Would you like to come back on Chris's comments? Do you agree with what he said there?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry, I was just having a quick nap. To be honest, no, I'm joking. I think he's fair. It's fair enough. Chamberlain's form. He's one of those guys who he's an impact player, in so much as he's brilliant to bring on off the bench. Obviously, because it cost us a lot less money. Remember what was that story? Remember when we were. Southampton digged us out. They said that we were only bringing him on after the 70th minute, so we didn't have to pay appearance fees. So that's maybe why he's so impactful for us. Remember when we played Old Trafford back in March, that dazzling run he did to beat 4 or 5 players before bringing in Monreal to score, and he's always pushing forward. He loves running at people. He's great in terms of taking the ball forward, but a lot of his own product, it's wavy at best, and he gives the ball away so easily in the first third of the pitch as well. In our half, he's trying to do tricks and flicks, which is just so unnecessary. I mean, what I do like about Chamberlain is that he gives us natural width, and I think I highlighted it earlier, and I know some fans have, but I'm really concerned at just the lack of width Arsenal have at the minute. I thought both Sanchez and Ramsey were poor on the weekend, and I think Sanchez has been overall quite poor this season. He gives the ball away a lot. He's looking so burnt out, so tired. He hasn't got his goal scoring boots on the same as he did last year. And so I like that we can bring on Chamberlain, and he gives us that something a little bit different. He gives us that natural width, but he just isn't consistent enough as a player. He makes sloppy decisions. His game, he doesn't look that much more mature now than what he did 3 years ago, and he's almost got a little bit of the Theo about him. He's progressing, but just not quite at the rate you'd expect him to, or what his potential shows he can, which I think is a shame. He's another one as well who suffered some injuries, some horrific injuries. Remember against Aston Villa in the first game of the season, the year we had the meltdown. And he got an injury, and I think Wenger said he was going to be back in 6 weeks, but we didn't see him again till January, February, and things like that have stunted his development plan, no doubt. But for me, I think I do agree. People need to, he does need a bit more, or he needs to be certainly providing more to hold down that first team slot. And I do think Wenger's a big fan of his, and he does offer something different. But as it stands, whilst I'm not the biggest fan of Ramsey on the right, I see the logic of playing him there ahead of Chamberlain.
Mm. And Andrew, where do you think the game will be won and lost against Chelsea?
As Kris alluded to, it's going to be, unfortunately for us, if we're not careful, those taking those clear-cut chances. Chelsea have well, I know this season they've been all over the place, but going to Stamford Bridge, you rarely create a hatful of chances. I knew a few years ago we scored 5 there, which was an outlier, but it really is going to be about who can be ruthless in front of goal. We Theo, on the Theo on Cahill or on Terry, he's going to certainly scare them slightly. And as we saw against, we saw in the Community Shield final, the game was won and lost on on Chamberlain taking his goal as well as he did. Both teams had their chances, but I can't see it being a free flowing, open and heavily heavy in goals. I think it's just going to be which one striker can put the ball in the back of the net on that 1 or 2 chance that they're going to get.
No, very true. And Danny, after Zagreb, how do you think the players should approach this game? I mean, you got to look at it. Chelsea are coming off the back of a big win, and we're coming into the game off a shitstorm in Europe. So, how do you think that they should approach it?
Well, they need to look at things like that. Chelsea have got what would be their third choice goalkeeper playing because Courtois is injured. He's out for quite a while now. Willian isn't playing. Falcao isn't playing. Not that he'd make much difference. I think it's time for the players who were dropped or dropped for decent reasons in last night, to come in and show the manager why they should never be dropped again, no matter what, and just go all out and attack them, because Chelsea this season have conceded 12 goals. Remember the last time Chelsea conceded 12 goals in the first 5 games of the season? This is their worst start to a season since, I think, 1986, 87, something like that. And I'm sure that season they went down back to Division 2 where they belong. Hopefully they'll do that this season. And Roman will be brought up on charges for some dodgy thing. Probably get Elton John to come over and give him a battering. That'd be nice.
Or a reach around.
But Chelsea are absolute rubbish at the moment. They've got no confidence. As unpronounceable is going to be dropped because he's just been there. Like Andy Jacobs was saying today, that he's his fault that 11 of the 12 goals have gone in, so he won't be playing as well. So they're going to be having looks like that Zuma bloke playing at right back, who's a centre back. So the whole team are just all over the place, and I reckon this will be another chance if we play like we should do, that we know we can do, go out there and absolutely hammer them. It could be a return of the time when we beat them. Was it 5-3?
Yeah.
And Van Schipbag got a hat trick. Now that would be whatever. It's not going to end 0-0, and it's not going to end that with it's not going to end without some kind of drama. And I'm actually going to get out of bed early and watch it, and then be screaming on the radio show afterwards if we don't win, because like I think someone else just said, we're never going to get a better chance to absolutely hammer them.
No. Very true. So with that said, then, we are going to do some predictions. And Danny, we will stick with you.
That's very kind of you. I think I'm going to go... I'm going to write these down as people are doing them. We're at their place, aren't we? Yes,
Yep.
Of course we are. I'm going to say 3-2. First goal scorer is going to be Costa, just because then they're going to think they're going to win, and then they're going to ruin it for them. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's mine.
Andrew?
I'm going to go 1-0 Chelsea, and I'm going to say Hazard.
Oh, Judas!
Dirty boy.
I'm in it to win it, boys. I want the prize.
Do you know, yesterday's game, every single one of ABW, from the bloggers to the Raids, everybody predicted an Arsenal win, apart from Jeff Arsenal, who said it was going to be a 1-1 draw.
Oh, Christ. Blue.
Hey, Jeff nearly knew.
Yeah, nearly. Kris?
Bloody wob.
I got the score right last night, just the wrong way round. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. I think we'll come from behind. No. I think we'll go.
Say it.
I think we'll go in front, and I think we'll succumb to pressure. So I'll say we'll go 1-up through Theo and ship probably a last 5 or 10 minute equaliser.
You don't get extra points for analysing the game before it's happened, you know.
No, just score and scorer.
1-1 Theo.
Wonderful. Mark?
2-2 Theo.
Okay, Darren?
1-0 Theo.
Superb. And I'm going to go 1-0 Ozil.
Hold on. Darren said 1-0 Theo.
Theo, yeah.
And Gimli said what?
1-0 Ozil.
So his own goal's not going to score then on the weekend?
No.
And listeners at home and on the bus, thank you very much.
Tumbleweed.
I nicked that from TalkSport.
It's terrible.
What was they say in the summer? Listeners at home and on the tractor. Oh, yes.
It's now over to you for Facebook and Twitter questions. We ain't got no Facebook questions, have we?
We ain't got no none. Right, so, okay, this is... I did type this into the box while you were talking about it, but you conveniently decided to ignore it. This is from Chennai Guna at Guna, Kanth. Why do our reserves complain of lack of game time and then play crap when they get the chance? And I shall go... Who's first on my list? I'll let Gimli go with that one.
Why do our reserves complain about... I don't know.
Fair enough, then.
Fair enough. I just...
Cheers, mate.
Unfortunately, last night was difficult, wasn't it? Because they were playing what could have been potentially a tricky game away from home in the Champions League. Games like that shouldn't have had to be played by our reserves. Surely you would have hoped that they'd have put out their first team for a game like that. I know you've got to say Chelsea in mind, but I don't think it's acceptable. But no, that's just one of those things you can't explain.
And we lose £750,000 because I'm sure that's how much money you get for a win. So that's not going to go down too well as either, is it?
No.
Anyone else want to answer that question?
I think hit it on the head.
Yeah, I have a go.
Go on, Mark.
These guys, the way football has changed, these guys do not get match practice unless they're playing for the first team. So they can do their drills at Colney day after day, the lovely football that they want to play, but that doesn't really prepare them for playing in Zagreb. And to be honest, it weren't that bad an atmosphere. I was expecting it to be a lot more, but it was like shitty old Stamford Bridge ground. So it doesn't prepare them for it. So they come in and they're all, whilst they are professional football players and they're paid a lot of money, there's no substitute for match fitness, match sharpness. And if you don't get matches, you can't come in and be on the top of your game. And when you make that many changes and you have that many people coming in not at the top of their game, that's when clusterfucks like last night happen.
I think Mark makes an excellent point very briefly on that as well. It's like if you think back to even the sort of late 90s era of football, sort of just before George left, or maybe just as, you'd see a lot of first team players turning out for the under 21s / reserve side. We don't really have, obviously the reserve league died however many years ago. Danny, you'll know the answer to that, but
about 3 or 4.
There you go. So whereas before
we got relegated.
There you go.
In the new one, we're bloody one of the biggest teams in the world, and our reserves are playing in the second division, and they're not even doing well there.
No, but you would often see, for example, Alexis, coming back from the Chile, from the Copa America, in the old days, he would have been sort of worked his way back to fitness by playing a couple of reserve games and then worked his way back into the first team. That seems to happen less and less now. You only get the very odd occasion when a broken Diaby gets a run out in the under 21s as an overage player, but now, like Mark says, there isn't really that opportunity now. They're literally straight back in, and they're expected to come straight up to speed, and it's difficult, and particularly the pressure side of it as well. They're under pressure to go out there and perform and take their place back, and as we said earlier, they didn't really do that.
And to show how much confidence the teams have got in the reserve league, Chelsea have loaned out 33, Liverpool have loaned out about 21, and we've loaned out about 11. So there you go, that's so much confidence. Right, shall I do the next question? This is from Coops, who is the Arsenal forum at @CCooper UK. What does Wenger see in Giroud? And I shall let Darren have a go on that.
Oh, Coops is a friend of mine as well, so I'm going to have to be nice about this, don't I? What does Wenger see in Giroud? Probably very little after last night. I really don't know. I mean, Wenger's obviously he's the kind of manager that always shows a lot of faith in players, especially when they're going through a bad patch as well. And he must see something in him, but at the moment it's difficult to tell, isn't it? I just wonder as well if Welbeck hadn't have been injured, whether he might have got a bit of a run up there as well. I think that's been a bit of a blow for us. Honestly, I saw him getting a bit more game time up top this season. It's I personally see Giroud as a great backup striker, but probably not the best to have as our main striker game in, game out. And well, you'd have to ask Arsene, I guess, what he actually thinks of himself.
Do you agree with that, Mr. Fyffe? Because I've seen a few people saying on the old mighty Twitter that if Giroud was playing for some other club, then Arsenal fans would be going, "Oh, he's the kind of player we need up front."
Yeah, but that's because Arsenal fans, by and large, chat rubbish. We all do. I mean, he's right. He's a good player. He's a very capable footballer who perfectly fits a system that we built, in so much as he holds the ball up well. He brings other players into the team. He's very much representative of a typical Arsenal player, in so much as he's not immune to having a crisis of confidence every so often. But he does have an ability, and he does give us something unique to the team that he allows other players to play off him. He defends well in the first third of the pitch, which is what is extremely important. That if you're going to defend as a team, the first defender on the pitch should be your centre forward. I've always said that. I think you need to press high up the field. He invites pressure on opposing players. He allows players like Sanchez to move off of him. He's a very good player, but he's not the kind. He is the kind of player we need, but he's not quite at the level we need. In if that makes sense. He's very much the talisman and the centre forwards, the classic number 9, which kind of our system needs. But he just doesn't have that ability. Well, I mean, he does have the ability. He will win you big games from time to time, but will he do it consistently for you? Is he someone who's going to, score something out of nothing like Thierry Henry did at the Bernabeu? The Bernabeu that time when we won 1-0 and knocked him out. I'm not sure. I don't see it myself. I do think he's a good player, and he has been a very good acquisition for Arsenal because he costs 10, 11 million pounds. He's a great player to have in the squad.
12.5, I think, Andrew.
12.5, yeah, but it's still, very much, a very prudent signing. Wenger took a bit of a gamble on him, bought him from the French league, and he's done very well. But he's not quite at the level which we need. He's not the world-class centre forward which is going to win you the league. And unfortunately, he's come to a club like Arsenal where that is the expectation of a lot of fans because we're such a big club. That's what we demand. I don't like some of the abuse he gets. I think. On the weekend, I said it, I heard quite a lot of people jeering stuff that he was doing. There's people shouting to get him off within 5 minutes. But I didn't see him doing anything worse than Theo, really. Yeah, he missed two sitters, but Walcott missed 3 or 4. Walcott only had a pass completion rate of 70%. Giroud had a pass completion rate of 83%. So people were getting on his back, and whilst Theo got a standing ovation coming off the pitch. And I think people need to give him. He needs to get off his back a bit and realise it's not his fault. He's not quite the player we want him to be. He is who he is, and we either accept that or we move on. But I don't think he's going to win you the league. That's the expectation, and that's really the bottom line.
But he's having the same problem with France and the France fans as well. So is it the Arsenal fans and the France fans that are the ones that are wrong, or is it Giroud that's wrong? I mean, so it can't be two completely different sets of fans in two countries, can it?
Yeah, but I mean, Giroud's wrong at what? He's playing his game. They're booing him because he's not good enough. That's fine. But then is it the managers that are wrong? He's not. He comes on. He scored. He's not the level that Arsenal fans expect. France fans are the same. They've had pretty much the same centre forwards as we have over the years in Thierry and whatnot. They're used to strikers winning them World Cups, or they've had Henry there recent years. Trezeguet. Obviously Benzema. So yeah, I understand why fans are annoyed, but I think we've got the sooner you accept that he's not the striker that's going to win you the league, and just I think the faster we can get on and get over it.
Well, just to finish that bit off, I think with the amount of chances we're scoring and the amount of goals that he isn't, the amount of chances we're creating goal-scoring chances, for a player in that position to have that many chances and to keep missing, eventually it's just catching up with us all, that we've all just had enough of it. You can't have 19 shots at goal and then only score 1 goal a game. Whether that's his fault, whether that's Theo's fault, whether that's everybody's fault. And I think he's the one taking the punishment for it, because we all know Arsenal fans love a boo boy, whether it be a Boué or whether it be Gervinho, there's always been a long list of them.
Well, I think some of Giroud's actions, I think it's all the throwing the hands up in the air and the faces he pulls and stuff like that doesn't endear him to the fans quite a bit as well. I think that has a bit of an effect on it as well.
And he showed more passion last night with the referee than he has done up front all season.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to convert some of that anger into the ability up front. Anyone else want a tickle on that?
No, I think it's been summed up quite well by all the boys.
Lovely jubbly. Right, this one is, Chris has reminded me of this from Gazman Jones. Gaz, who's been on the pod a couple of one time, 2 times, I don't know. Somewhere between 1 and 1 million times.
Once, I think.
Well, there you go.
The Invincible special, the Christmas one we did.
Ah, yes. With Jack Wilshere's latest setback from injury, how much longer do we stand by him waiting for the season he comes good and plays regularly? Go on, Chris. It's your mate. You answer it.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Gaz. It's a really tough one, this, because we all like Jack and we all kind of want him to succeed. It's part of a bigger picture for me, which I'm sure we'll cover one day when we've got the time. But the English core, for me, is a failed experiment, massively. English players aren't even good enough at international level. I don't see what makes us think that they'll be any better at club level, personally. And even though I'm a fairly staunch Wenger supporter, I think that's an error. I really do. I wonder how we would get on. People moan about the foreign impact, but I'm not so sure. I think most of our players in recent history, the better players, have been foreign. So it's part of a debate for another day. But on Jack himself, We all want him to succeed. I think we all see almost a little bit of ourselves as kids in Jack. That sounds really wrong, but you know what I'm getting at. He's a sort of a lovable tyke. He's a bit of a maverick. Likes a bit of likes a beer. Likes a sort of a dodgy picture here and there from the paparazzi.
Sounds like you're sorry to interrupt. It sounds like you're describing David Brent.
He's
a bit of a maverick. Sure,
that was the quiz. That was the quiz.
And that's the real quiz. The real quiz.
Yeah, let's not go there. But yeah, I mean, I think he's his cheeky chappy, and we all want him to succeed. He's clearly Arsenal through and through, but so was Wojciech Szczesny, and we know where he is now. So it is still a massive season for Jack. My biggest concern with him is he always seems to provide those moments of inspiration at national level and never can seem to get a run of games that he needs at Arsenal. And I'm also concerned that the longer these injuries mount up, the harder it's going to be for him to stake a claim to play in the Arsenal first team. There are players that are, Aaron Ramsey in particular, who's suffered a bigger injury, if not than anything, and has come back from it. And of course, we are always looking to strengthen the side. So I'm just not sure where Jack fits in, unless, of course, he's willing to change his game. Well, actually, I say he's willing to, unless Arsene is willing to change his position and put him where his best performances have been in an England shirt, which is in that sort of holding midfield area, which, I'll be honest, I don't think he's going to do. So it's a massive season for Jack, even if he has half a season. If not, I mean, can we afford to turn down 30, 40 million from a Manchester City? It's a real tough one. I mean, I don't know what the other guys think. Maybe, Darren, what do you think?
Oh, like I say, we'd all love Jack to succeed at Arsenal, wouldn't we? He's still, I know he's had loads of injuries. He still is young enough. I think, maybe he's in the same sort of position as Van Persie was obviously a few years back. I agree with Kris as well. Sticking him in the holding midfield role that he plays for England. He plays that so well there. I've always thought he could play there and all. But like you say, whether Arsene sees it that way is another thing. He just needs to stop getting himself injured, doesn't he?
Anybody else want to go on that one before I move on to the next question?
No, I'm good on that one.
Okay, well, this is from Akshay. If you were manager for the day, what's the one executive decision you would enact? Go on, Gimli, as you've piped up.
Sack Arsene Wenger.
Hey!
No. No, would that day be in the transfer window?
No, the day after.
Well, I'd probably hang myself then.
Happy days.
Oh, anybody else want to go on that? I said that a little bit loudly and with too much enthusiasm.
Any of you? Not really.
God, Darren, you must have a witty answer for it, or make one up.
I forgot what the question was.
If you were Arsenal manager for the one day, what executive decision would you make?
I'd bring in guest managers.
Like Owen Coyle.
Yeah, Owen Coyle. If you can pick off of Twitter or celebrities, anything like that, or people that think they're celebrities on Twitter, and they'll get a day each, or no, we'll give them a week each, and it's got to be an idea. I think it's the way forward. Special guest managers.
I would let Blackburn George have the first slot without a doubt.
I'm not mentioning any names, Gim, honestly.
Do you think the Venezuelan could fit those inside the coat, though? Because I'm not sure she could. If she was on the bench, I don't think they'd fit. Even Alston's coat, I don't think they'd go in there.
Fit what? I don't know what you're talking about. But no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
one's on the top or the no? Carry on.
No. That's, oh God, oh Jesus.
Anyone else want to answer this one?
Were you alluding to Marmaris, Kris?
Boobies!
No, I think Darren was alluding to another set that she might have somewhere else.
I didn't say that, Kris.
No. Sorry, that allegedly, I should say, allegedly.
Dear, oh dear.
She could use her finger as a thermometer on me.
Oh, God. Move on, Danny, for Christ's sake.
You might bite her.
Lukewarm.
What have I started here? Sorry.
Okay, right. Our very own wrestler, Chris Tunmore, who is at Dynamite Gunner, says, who should be captain now? Now, I've asked Chris about this, and I said, has Arteta died? And he said, no. I said, has he been dropped? He said, no, but I think he's alluding to the fact that he's shit. So who should, anybody, Mark, you've been a bit quiet, who should be captain now?
He's on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a very good question because I think, I can't remember, one of the guys pointed it out last night that somebody, it was obvious that Giroud's head wasn't quite right. He acted like a twat to get the first booking, and what you're looking for there is for someone to go and have a word with him and get him to calm the fuck down. And no one appears to have done that, because obviously if they did, he completely ignored it. And yet the captain that Wenger has picked was actually playing in that game. So I don't know. I mean, we've had this conversation on Twitter many times about we don't have many leaders, and I still firmly believe that we do lack leaders on the pitch. And then people confuse that with because of me being me, with a desire for someone like Tony Adams as a captain, and that's not the case at all. You want somebody who's actually going to lead the team on the pitch, because in my opinion, one of the biggest problems we've got is that Wenger just hands over all responsibility for in-game management to the players, and that used to be fine when he had very intelligent football-wise players who could do that. He hasn't got those. He hasn't had them for a number of years. These guys cannot manage the game themselves, so they need somebody who will do that for him on the pitch, and I don't believe there is one. And I think, as an example of that, you're seeing the problems that Chelsea have got, and a lot of that is coming from the issues they've got with John Terry. Not just purely the fact that they've lost someone who played really, really well last year. I was amazed at his age, that he could still play, put a season of centre-half in like he did. But, they're losing that now. So they're losing not only someone who plays as a very good centre-half, but a real leader on the pitch. And they haven't got, I don't think, anyone who can replace him either. So I think that's a lot of their problems is being caused by that. They haven't got anyone who'll do the thing. But what Mourinho will do is he will make changes to his team to try and force what he wants to be done, rather than just letting them do their own thing, which is Wenger's approach. So I think it's a big problem. I don't know, to be fair. I know there are some candidates like Per, but to me, he doesn't do a great deal either. So
spot on Terry, by the way. That's an excellent point Mark makes. It's no coincidence that since he's dropped out the side, like it's not just their results that have suffered, it's their whole performances, their ability to pick themselves up. That game against Everton, for example, I don't think they lose that last season. Well, clearly they didn't. They won 6-2 or whatever it was last year. But the heads went, and I think John Terry was the first one. I think it was Naismith's second goal where his head just went, and you could see that he'd given up, and the whole team fell with him. I think Mark's absolutely right. The only other person I could think that could step up would probably be, ironically, Petr Cech, because of the experience factor and the fact that I like a goalkeeper or defender to be a captain, because they can see the whole thing in front of them, and our defence always needs a bit of rattling. So Cech would be the only other one I could think of.
Oh, okay, very good. Right, next question. I want one word. This is how I tell how long someone's been supporting Arsenal. Simon Hardwick, who is at Highbury 27, and last night when the radio show was on, he said, "Everyone turn off TalkSport and Radio 5 and go and listen to that." So cheers for that, Simon, you cheeky monkey. He says, "What game is more important, Chelsea or Spurs?" Now, I'm not sure if he means this season or in general, but for me, it's always Spurs, no matter what. That's the most important game of the season, home and away. Gimli.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. When we lost to them last season, I just locked myself away and cried for the next week. It's inconceivable to think that we'd lose that. And for me, there is no worse feeling when we lose, whether it's home or away. It's just a horrible feeling. Whereas Chelsea, you can kind of go, wow, they were only established in 2004, weren't they? So, yeah, it's...
Well, they'll soon be gone.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Where they come from.
Well, as soon as Roman gets fucking bored with them, he'll be gone. So, yeah, Spurs.
Are you still awake, Mr. Fyffe?
Spurs, yeah, definitely.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, you asked for a one-word answer, my friend.
Oh, yeah, just Gimli didn't listen. Go on then, more than one word. 17.
No, listen, when you work and live in London, in a relatively big office, it's dominated by Spurs and Arsenal fans, and so there's no worse crack on a Monday morning going in, knowing that you're going to have all the Spurs lads whoring around your desk because you're trying to keep your head down. And likewise, there's no greater feeling than going in. It's like being a school kid still. Back in the playground days, the Arsenal Spurs rivalry, the games are always just so much, so intense. The atmosphere is always electric at the Emirates come match day, and there's just so much more history there for the fans. It's a huge day. Don't get me wrong. Chelsea is fast emerging as quite a rival for Arsenal. There's been the whole Wenger Mourinho spats which have come to fruition in recent years, and fights on the pitch we've seen that several times now. There's some bad blood there, but the Tottenham Arsenal derby, it not only does it usually throw up a great day, but usually we've seen some ridiculous score lines in recent years, some really, really good football. We've both been vying for that fourth place as well in recent years. I think that there's no greater day for an Arsenal fan or for a Spurs fan when you get one over on the other team. Although we're not muggy enough to go out and make mugs and calendars and DVDs about it. Yeah. But fair play to them. That's what they want to do. But it just shows the passion between the two clubs and the rivalry. And you just can't beat it. And I don't think there'll be any London rivalry as big as Arsenal Spurs anytime soon.
Jolly good. Darren?
Spurs, definitely.
Does it annoy you when people say, I hate Chelsea more, or I hate Man United more?
Yeah, it does, because it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I grew up around Highbury, and funnily enough, my younger brother and my dad are both Tottenham fans.
Boo.
So
hope you've disowned them.
Prick gene obviously skips a generation in my family. But yeah, that's it. Tottenham. You just grew up hating the fuckers from top to bottom. Everything about them. The players, the club, the fans, the fucking tea lady, a lot of them.
Apart from the man who does the lasagna.
Oh, apart from him, yeah, of course, yeah. I forgot about him.
I tell you one. My only answer to that question would be that anyone who is not sure whether it's Tottenham or Chelsea needs to go to White Hart Lane to a derby match. Ooh. And when they come away from that game, they will never ever question again whether it is Spurs or Chelsea, because they will then understand how much and how bitter their hatred for us runs.
That's very true. My first ever game was at White Hart Lane. Beat Spurs 2-1 after being 1-0 down. Thomas and Rocastle scored for us. I think Pat Vandenhouse scored for them. Oh, what a day that was. I didn't take any notice of what happened on the pitch. I was too busy looking at all and listening to all the stuff going on around me. Chris?
Yeah, full house. It's got to be Spurs. And what Mark just said, funny enough, just took the words right out of my mouth. 100% agree with what he's just said. I was at the North London derby when we lost and Freddie Lindbergh was sent off. And I think Martin Keown was sent off for the same game. I can't remember what bloody year that is. How bad is that? Showing my age, because I'm obviously getting senile and forgetting years. But I think it was around about 99, that kind of era. And I was genuinely quite frightened for my life. It was quite scary. The hostility, particularly in a game like that where there was obviously 2 red cards, a lot of challenges flying in. It was it's a proper nasty derby when it wants to be, and the hatred between the fans, make no mistake, there's plenty there. And particularly sort of when you see how much success we've sort of garnered over the years, that seems to make them more bitter, more angry.
They won the League Cup once.
Oh, well, jolly good. It was that black and white TV, wasn't it? But
I think it might have been.
But the good thing about them is that they are all so deluded that they keep on thinking year after year it'll be their year. So, that only fuels... To us, it's a bit like kicking a puppy every year. But
yeah, but you wait until they beat us in the League Cup when we put out a load of 16-year-olds and they beat us 1-0.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be like the end of the world for them.
There'll be DVDs ahoy everywhere, won't there? Mugs, fucking all sorts. But yeah, it's got to be
plenty
Spurs.
of mugs, yeah.
Yeah, very good. It's got to be Spurs. I mean, the rivalry with Chelsea is a rivalry, as was the rivalry with Man United. But when you lay them out and you look at all the pros and cons, it's always got to be Spurs. That's always the one you want to win.
Okay, right. We've got one more question for Darren, and then one for all of you, and then Gim, if you can work on your special voice intro for our new section, the Worldwide Gooners. If you can work on some kind of intro for that,
okay.
Make it sound manly. Okay. Right. One question. This is for Darren only, from a friend of the pod, Ellis Mill. What is Darren's favourite ever troll tweet? It doesn't say whether it's yours or not. So.
Do I do them? Really?
I don't know. I thought everything you quote is verbatim.
Yeah. I saw the question earlier on actually, and I did have a bit of time to think about it. My favourite one was there was an article allegedly from the Arsenal website. It was just after Coquelin had come back into the team and started playing well.
I remember this one.
There was this article saying that we'd agreed for him to go back to Charlton on loan and till the end of the season. And what was good about it is that I was told by a couple of people the next day that they'd actually gone into work. And they've got Arsenal fans at work that are really pissed off, saying, "What's the fuck's going on? That Wenger's sending Coquelin back to Charlton on loan." This is in real life. It had nothing to do with Twitter or anything like that. And people were tweeting me saying, "Oh, he really pissed my mate off at work."
Oh dear! Has anyone ever threatened to kill you over any of them?
Not that I know of, no. There's a few that I've had to delete because I might have gone a bit too far, but I probably better not mention them ones.
Did you do the Di Maria one as well, shortly after he left Man U?
No. I did a Fabregas one.
His quote about being at Chelsea and they're rubbish and he wish he hadn't gone.
Yeah, it was something about, it was after their parade when only about 3 people turned up, and he was moaning about it, apparently. That ended up on Facebook as well.
Oh, because they look so professional, weren't they? I just say keep up the good work. They're brilliant.
Yeah, there was a Gaza one as well, but I'm not going to talk about that one.
Is that the one where he turned up with KFC?
No, it was it was when he's talking about Jack Wilshere after what he'd done after the FA Cup parade, and it ended up with Gaza saying, "Oh, it didn't do me any harm having a drink. I was drunk when I signed for Spurs." And yeah. That one ended up crossing over quite a bit into Facebook and the mainstream. So
they don't like it, do they?
No. It was obviously made up as well. But I've obviously got to grow up and find something that I better do in my spare time than piss about on Twitter winding people up. So,
No, don't grow up. Stay the same. We like it.
Oh, it's not going to happen, Gim. Is it? Honestly, come on. Maybe it's a bit late for it now.
Right, okay. Now that one's out of the way. One final one. This is going to go to everybody from Sam Taylor at Sam_Taylor91. If you saw Arsene Wenger in the street, what would you do? And we'll start with Mark.
Nothing. Wouldn't. Yeah, just wouldn't bother me one way or the other. To be fair.
Oh, fair enough, Mr. Fyffe, birthday boy.
I'd probably help him try and find the list of players which he wants to sign, which he seems to misplace every summer.
Oh, 2 very sensible answers. Gimli.
What was the question again? Sorry, I missed it.
If you met our glorious leader, Mr. Wenger, wandering around N5, what would you do? What would you say to him?
What would I say to him? Oh, that's a good question.
Would you offer him some of your finest wares?
No, I wouldn't.
Would you throw your knickers at him?
Would you flog him a goldfish? A
yeah,
kitten?
That's what I'd do. I'd flog him a goldfish. No, I don't know what I'd say to him. I think it would be very off chance. I'd probably tell him to fuck off, to be honest. Tell him to sign someone in the transfer window, the useless cunt.
God, Kris, save us!
Save us! How the hell do you follow that? Jesus.
We have a disclaimer usually.
Yeah, right.
I'm not throwing her out.
No, of course not, because you'd kill him.
Well, I'll probably have a very unpopular answer here, but I would shake him warmly by the hand, and then I would request or ask him what it would take for me to have maybe 2 hours alone with him in a room where we could just sit, trousers down. No, I would request a couple of hours of his time where there was no distractions, and it would all be off camera and off the record, and I would just ask him open and honest questions, because there are a lot of people that blindly support Arsene Wenger no matter what he does. I'm not one of them. I do think he's the right man for the job, and I do support what he does for the club, but he does make mistakes, and my God, when he makes mistakes, they are massive mistakes. So it'd be very interesting just to speak candidly with him and just get an idea as to what the truth is. I wonder if Mr. Cross's book might give us some of those answers, but until then, we'll probably have to wait till he's no longer in football, because I don't think we'll ever find out until that point.
I know what I'd do. I know what I'd do.
Go on.
I'd ask him if he had Jurgen Klopp's number.
Yeah, he'd probably begin with a Liverpool dialing code by the time you get to meet him.
He's already halfway to Liverpool, I think.
Darren, you got an answer for this?
I thank him for the Invincibles.
What a
That's
great
about
answer.
I would have had Chris's answer, but he already had it. So yeah, I'd thank him for the Invincibles.
You can have my answer would be I'd invite him for dinner somewhere and I'd spend all day talking to him about football.
He
And
doesn't
well,
want to
that
go
as
to
well,
Fatty Arbuckles.
I'd say as long as there's none of that fucking garlic nonsense.
Don't think he likes KFC, don't he, to be honest?
I don't eat KFC, it gives me the shits. I'd say, can I buy you dinner somewhere? You pick where, as long as it's
Wimpy.
get change out of £100. And then I'd say, let's just talk about football, because I think he needs to be shown the light by someone who goes, look, you're doing this, not that I'm any kind of expert, but just the collective view of Arsenal fans in general, to let him know that sometimes things, because he had David Dean before, didn't he, that he used to speak to, and they could talk about stuff, and he knew it would go no further. But now he's got no one to bounce ideas off of. Not that he would with me, but I just tell him that he needs to find somebody he can do that with, because I know it looks like he's getting to him at times, and sometimes it's like he's making a decision with all the entire weight of the world on his shoulders and no one to share it with.
It'd definitely be one off the bucket list, where you can just sit down and have the briefest conversation about football.
I wouldn't be
with
mean
Arsenal,
to him
you know?
at all.
He's very charming, isn't he? Like, if you speak to anyone, even people that vehemently are against him, you speak to pretty much anyone, they'll say when they've met him in person, he changes their opinion of him very quickly. So it would actually be quite interesting to see how many people have had that effect. Because even journalists, there are some that really don't like him. Neil Ashton.
I've met him a couple of times. He's nice, but he can be quite cold as well. I think he's the kind of guy he's a really nice guy. But one of the funniest things I saw actually was him walking around. So sometimes when Arsenal play at home, they'll stay in the night before. They stay in the Four Seasons Hotel in Canary Wharf. And I've seen him on occasion walking around Canary Wharf on a Friday night by himself in an Arsenal tracksuit with his initials on. And I think,
We've all done that.
I was going to say, I do that every Sunday.
If you don't want to be recognised, and he gets quite frustrated when people go up and ask him for signatures sometimes. And I'm thinking, if you don't want to be recognised, don't wear the Arsenal tracksuit with your initials on.
Chris does that.
Bless him.
Well, the signature thing, he doesn't like signing anything, does he? Like checks or whatever. So.
Can we get an ABW tracksuit for Fyffe to walk around in?
People know who he is. He doesn't need his initials.
Chris, can you confirm or deny whether you do that round Plymouth Pound world in a Barbican Pirates track
Actually,
with Casey on it?
I actually did it last weekend. I walked through town because I didn't have a lift back, so I walked straight through town. I looked like
Did
a
you
prize
get
plum.
noticed?
Did anyone
no.
come up to you? No? Oh.
Nobody gives a fuck about me.
Talking of Twitterati and Twitter celebrities, I'm pretty sure someone on this pod got recognised for the sound of their voice the other day.
Oh, I heard about that in the papers.
No,
Who could it have been, Mark?
Well, yeah, that was one of the most bizarre things. I still think that Andrew bunged the geezer a fiver to do it.
You're a pod whore when someone comes up to you in the street and asks if you're that guy from the podcast. You mean on so many?
I had that as well, didn't I, at Sainsbury's?
Fucking hell.
That time.
You'd be accusing me of having a T-shirt with my Twitter handle on next.
So did Stokes as well, if you remember. He got pulled over in Bristol.
Yeah, what a story.
By a copper.
Tell him a story.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Stokes, he did the show on the Thursday, and I think he got pulled over either the Friday evening or the Saturday. And he was listening to the show because he said he was quite vain, and he listened back to the show on the car radio. And it was playing as he got pulled over by the copper. And he said, I recognise you. You were on a Bergkamp Wonderland, weren't you? So, yeah, I've never been recognised.
And Kate had an interesting one as well, didn't she, on the train?
Oh, yeah, she was coming back from Bridgewater on the train, and there were actually a bunch of guys talking about the podcast on the train, and she was sat like three seats in front of them, totally random.
And she was just crying because she'd seen you naked.
I said, well, didn't you go up to them and say, hello? And she went, no, it was Tim Barrett.
They were probably calling you a cunt, that's why.
Well, like,
that's how she knew what he was listening
fucking
to.
Rob Seal. That's exactly what it says on the tin.
Well, I forgot where we are now. Did everyone answer that question? Yes, they have, haven't they?
Danny, I think
Yes.
it's time that we should stick with you for a new segment we've got in this show.
We got a new segment?
Yes, it's called
Bloody hell.
Worldwide Gooners. So
World what?
Worldwide Gooners.
You said world wine.
I didn't.
You fucking
So
did.
would you like to explain to the lovely people that listen to this
Yes.
what are the Worldwide Gooners and
Yes.
how it's become a segment?
It has. It's because it was our very own Dom Good day, Dom. As a Canadian-Australian accent, who's currently on the run in Canada from Australia, and he said, "Why don't we try and link up with some of the Facebook pages?" So he was talking to the Australian ones, the Adelaide ones, and he's also said, "I've got to say hello to the New Zealand Gooners who've been talking to Dom, and they've mentioned us on their Facebook a few times in the last few weeks." And then so I put a message out on Facebook. I said, "Have any of you got any Arsenal Facebook fan groups, and do you want to link up with us?" And every week, what we'll do, we'll pick one, and then you promote us on your thing, and you promote us on ours. So if you go to Facebook and you type in this week's one, Arsenal Fans Pakistan, which is the facebook.com/Arsenal-fans-Pakistan, and then a whole load of numbers. Begins with 165, and then go and have a look at there. Go and give them a like. Join in with their chit chat. I think there's about 7,000 of them on there, all having a nice chat, which is good. And so I think it's a deal that I've been talking to, and he said, "Oh, certainly we'll do that." So he put a really good message up on there, and I plagiarised that, copied most of it, and stuck it on our one for future ones for people to contact us. And what we want is 3 or 4 of everyone to send in questions to that Facebook page. Then we'll the person who's dealing with it will pick 3 or 4 of the best questions. So that's what we've done. So the first question is, has Wenger stagnated at Arsenal? And that's from Akram Pervez. Mr. Gimli, you can answer that one.
I think, yeah, to a certain degree he has done. I think there's certainly a case for saying that maybe since he joined Arsenal, he changed English football for the better. But since that time, football has moved on and he's maybe failed to move with it. You can't deny what he's done for the club, and I know I was a bit silly back there. I have a lot of respect for the guy. You can't fault the success that he's brought to the club. But for me, Arsenal go beyond the manager. If you're still making the same mistakes that you have been for years, if you're failing to address the problems that fans and pundits can see, I know many say that he's untouchable, and I don't think that he should be. I think that he should be made accountable for the mistakes that he makes. And I think that, maybe he's given an easy ride by a lot of people. But to whether he say he's stagnated, I think the answer is probably yeah. I think he has.
Oh, there you go. Right, next question. They didn't know Mr. Fyffe was going to be on, but this is perfect from him. Again from Akram Pervez. Why Usmanov wasn't made the majority shareholder? Wasn't made.
Well, sorry, the question is, why wasn't he made majority shareholder?
Yeah.
Because he didn't buy the shares. I don't get it, sorry.
Doesn't the Red and White Holdings have more shares than the other one? No, they don't, do they?
No,
they don't.
Kroenke owns 66% of the shares, and Usmanov owns 30%. I mean, usually people question why he's not invited onto the board when
Maybe
he's the second. Yeah, he's the second largest shareholder, with quite a substantial, obviously, substantial investment in Arsenal. So people will tend to ask, why he's not invited onto the board. And I guess for the board don't feel that they want to have that kind of heterogeneity on the board. They want to, closed way of thinking, and they don't want to open themselves up to questions from outsiders who have differing opinions. You could say if he was on the board that it could result in filibustering or internal politics. It could turn into a farce where it's all about bust-ups in views and strategy between Kroenke and Usmanov. So they might want to keep it one way and stick to their strategy. It's entirely up to Kroenke. He owns more than double the shares Usmanov does, so it's his choice effectively. But that's usually what gets asked up. But in terms of why he's not the majority shareholder, it's just because he's not stumped up, the extra 400 or 500 million that Kroenke has.
Okay, hope that kind of answers your question. The next one, we'll go to Darren. Is it really the best time to play Chelsea, or will Arsenal be the turnaround game for them? That's from Omar Hassan Khan.
That's a good question, actually. I was thinking about this earlier on today. I was just wondering if last night's results may actually work in our favour, because before last night's results, I was thinking along the lines of a draw, and that Mourinho would go out and just do anything to stop us from winning, whether that meant them not winning as well. But I just wonder if he might get a bit more brave after what's happened with the results during the week, and that might work in our favour, giving us a bit more space or something. I don't know, because he would have parked the bus completely. I think if it hadn't been for what happened last night. So I think it's still a good time to play them. Like Danny was saying earlier on, they're looking a bit of a shambles at the moment. I don't think last night's results will really change that as far as the league goes. We've got our players coming back as well. So I think we just go at them from the start. I think we can do it. I think we can beat them.
Jolly good. Right, final question will go to Kris. Says, how long will it take for Thierry Henry to take a coaching role with the senior team? And that is from Aru Talat Khan.
Crikey. It's a tough question because the truthful answer is we don't really know. Is he being?
Think he ever will?
I do think he will. I think I don't know whether Thierry has got the managerial branch sort of available to. I don't know whether he would suit it or not. His punditry, it's hard to judge. Because you don't know how much he's being told what to say. And I know there's been a couple of occasions where you've seen him in the pundit's chair sort of uncomfortably fidgeting when Jamie Carragher or Graham Souness talk out of bollocks as usual, and he's just sat there going, what are you on about? So, it's hard to judge him as far as punditry goes. I would imagine he's a very erudite man in training. I would imagine he's, very clear and he strikes me as the sort of guy who's a bit of a deep thinker. So everything would suggest he'd make a very good coach slash manager. But I do wonder if it would be, if Arsenal was to leave, say, for the end of the season, I don't think he'd be ready now. So to answer the question, if I had to put my neck on the line, I'd probably say he'll either be a coach within the next 2 years, or he'll be off like Vieira was and probably start doing that somewhere else.
Oh, sad times that would be.
Yeah.
Right, thank you very much to the Arsenal Fans Pakistan, and thank you very much to Adil for sorting all that out. If you want to go and give him a follow on Twitter, it's ADIL_Arsenal. And there you go, Gim. That's all my shenanigans done.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
All that's left to cap off the show then is some shout-outs. So I'm going to give my shout-outs, and I've got 3 this week. First of all is at Honigstein, which is HONIGSTEIN, and he's going to be joining us on the 24th of this month, which is, I believe, is it next week?
Yeah, it certainly is.
We're going to
Unless
have...
they change to a different type of calendar,
yeah,
which I don't see happening.
So he's going to be making his 3rd official appearance on the show. So that's always one to look forward to. The next man is, you might remember Rami Shaban from last season, ex-Arsenal goalkeeper. And
Lovely
what
bloke.
a gentleman he was. He is at Shaban Rami, and he's going to be joining us on the 1st of October. And the final one is at Rob Beckett Comic, who is currently on holiday at the moment, but we are talking to him about an appearance when he gets back. So those are 3 absolutely fantastic people there who are going to be on this podcast in the next, month, I'd say. So, Danny, over to you.
Mine's going to go to Mr. RK Gunner, who is at Arsenal RK. Poor bloke sent me 6 tweets, including all of our names in all the tweets, and I couldn't be bothered to sort them all out into one meaningful question, but he was just asking about injuries and asking about the game last night and where do we go from that, and is Sanchez burnt out, and an entire podcast's worth of questions. So the least he can do is get a gentleman's nod from me. So thanks, RK, but it was too long for me to try and make sense of.
Fantastic.
In the 10 minutes I had from getting out of bed to getting in here.
Andrew?
Funny enough, funny enough, I think Rob Beckett was actually on this podcast, the exact same one a year ago. So remember, it was after we lost to Dortmund, we got hammered by them on my birthday last year. So on that somber note, my shout out actually I'm going to go for two ABW regulars, Raj Patel and Jeff Arsenal, because on the weekend, as some people knew, they took we had a competition, an ABW competition, and a couple of lads. Jeff and Raj saw that they went to the box. They met them at Highbury Corner, bought them a nice pie for lunch, took them to a box at Arsenal, and they ended up meeting Jack Wilshere and Charlie George, and it was great to see. It was a really nice gesture by Raj and Jeff, and showing their commitment to the pod and to the listeners. And I think it was great. Made a couple of lads. They were dead chuffed, and it seemed like they all had a great day. So really, really nice by those lads. And my shout out goes to you too.
Gimli,
Yeah.
if we decided how we're going to put we've recorded a little bit on Tuesday night, like 10, 15 minutes with those two. Have we decided whereabouts in the pod we're going to slip it in? Because I've only just remembered we've done that.
Yes, I wanted to put it in as this show's Easter egg, so it's not going to be anything funny. But if you carry on listening,
Well, they enjoyed it because it took us an hour to do, and we were cracking up.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it's just me and you cunting each other off for an hour pretty much. But if you want to listen to that, stay tuned, because after this podcast, about a minute after the end music's finished, there will be that 15-20 minute interview with them, and I can assure you it's absolutely fantastic listening. And those boys, thank you so much. It sounded like they had a super day, but listen to yourself after the show. Right, who's next? We'll go to Kris.
Sorry, I was just waiting for a little thing to... I was trying to unmic and there was a box come up over the top. Unmute, I should say. My shout-out is to a chap called Jeff Markman, who is part of the Camel City Gooners over in the US of A. He is at Jeff with a J, J-E-F-F, Markman, M-A-R-K-M-A-N. Jeff gave me a really interesting thing that he mocked up on Word, which, with your permission, Gim, I'd like to retweet a picture of it from the Twitter account at some point in the coming days, which is basically his version of Arsenal's system if we were to go to a 4-3-3. And he's done some very good little diagrams, and he's bullet pointed on how he would see certain players fitting the system and how it would make us potentially a more effective side when playing. So it is a really interesting document, and it just goes to show that, you know, our fans, whether they be UK based or overseas based or young or old, really take the time to sort of think about the game and don't just stand in front of a box and go, well, he's shit. So it's a really interesting article. So I'll retweet that for people when we get a chance. And my shouts to Jeff.
And Mark?
Two quick ones. It's two really good accounts that I enjoy following for the youth team. And they've got lots of followers already, but anyone who's not should get on them. First one is George Bird. That's George with a J, George Bird. And the other one is Rio, RYO _Cleverfish. They both specialise in youth teams, and they've always got some really good tweets, and particularly should go and try and catch Chris Willock's goal in the Champions Youth League yesterday against Dinamo Zagreb, quality goal, and have a look at that.
Fantastic. And finally, Darren.
I've got a couple. First one is at C Cooper UK. That's Coops, who runs the Arsenal Forum website. He was just responsible for one of the questions earlier on as well.
He's a lovely fellow as well.
On a match day.
Yeah, it's the best place to go for streams on a match day, without doubt.
No, nice bloke,
yeah.
like him says.
And the other one is a friend of mine, Craig Power. He's at Craig V Power. He's a good friend of mine. He's an actor. He sometimes posts up videos on YouTube that you'll find from his Twitter account. He's got a character called Danny Liar. I don't know if anyone on the pod's seen that before, but he's hilarious. A real nice guy, a good friend of mine as well. So check him out.
Yes, I have seen that.
Danny Liar is brilliant. It's fucking hilarious. It really is.
Yeah, it is very good.
Yeah.
Craig is a very funny guy.
He is. Yeah, makes me laugh every time I see him.
Danny, we should also mention before we close the show that
yes.
It's that time of year again. Is
it Christmas?
No, it's FBA
time
nomination time.
Oh, sorry.
So for all of those listening, you might have heard that or seen on our Twitter accounts this week that it's the FBAs, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's the Football Blogging Awards. Last year we were lucky enough to actually win it for best football podcast, and the ceremony takes place at the Manchester Football Museum. We'd like to win again and defend our title, but it is again down to you guys to make the votes and actually get us there. The first round of voting closes in 2 weeks' time. If you want information on how to vote, because we have entered the radio that Kris does, the blogs which Kate is in charge of, and the podcast, of course, which you're listening to now, we will have the nomination tweet pinned to the top of all of our accounts. So go and check that out. Literally, it is a link that you click it, it sets the tweet up for you, and you just have to tweet the tweet. It takes no more than 5 seconds, does it, Danny? Something like that?
Yeah, that's just to get through the preliminary into the main one, and then once we're in the main one, if you want us to win, you can vote on Twitter, vote on Facebook, and you can vote on their website. So you can go, one person can vote on all three, but there's no point retweeting it 50 times a day because it's just going to annoy everybody else, and it's not going to make any difference. But you can vote 3 times, once via each type of media, because we should have won it the first time we entered it, which we killed it on Twitter, but we had no votes on Facebook because we didn't use our Facebook.
No.
So also I want to say hello. We had 47 new people join Facebook this week. A lot of them, I think, are from Arsenal fans Pakistan. So hello to you lot, and thanks for joining our Facebook. And if anyone else out there has got a Facebook page and you want to link up with us, I think we've got the Miami. No, not is it maybe Miami Gooners?
Yes.
I know it's definitely the Adelaide Gooners. I think Miami Gooners maybe, and there was another one, the LK Arsenal LK. I'm not sure where that is. It's probably someplace whose initials I don't understand. But yeah, so once we get through the if we get through the preliminary bit, then it gets down to, is it 6?
It's 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year we were against podcasts from Wolves, Bradford, Tottenham, Liverpool.
I think there's 2 from Liverpool.
Yeah, I think there was 2 from
Always
Liverpool.
good to beat those. And they're all very friendly as well. They've all congratulated us, and we were retweeting each other's stuff. And we've got quite a good relationship with the Bradford ones as well, because we were asking them how to do stuff when we first started out. And yeah, they've been very helpful.
Yeah, but
they won it the year before us.
What an honour it would be to have it 2 years in a row. And of course, it's always nice to have a nice trophy or a plaque on the wall. So yeah, please vote. Like I said, the tweets with a link on that takes 5 seconds to vote will be pinned to the blogs, the radio show, and the podcast Twitters for the next 24 hours. So until Saturday. So please just give us your time. It doesn't take very long, and it's really much appreciated. So all that's left then is to thank my lovely guests tonight, Kris, Andrew, Mark, Darren, and Danny. That was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and keep it Arsenal. Good night.
Happy birthday, you cheeky monkeys.
And don't forget to tune in to Interview. We're recorded on Tuesday.
Get well soon, Luke Shaw.
Come on then, Gim.
Right, ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Hello. I'm now joined by the winners of our competition that we run. As you all may have known, we did the donate button over the summer, and these guys that I'm joined by now won it. So I'm joined by Rodri and Ashley. Hello, guys.
Hi, Gim. All right?
Yes, not too bad at all, thank you. Would you like to give your @names on Twitter for all the people listening?
Yeah, my name is @Hawkins72.
And my one is @RoweAFC, ROWEAFC.
Superb.
For people who don't speak Welsh, Rodri said AWKIN. It's not ORK.
No.
I'm surprised you didn't pick him on that, Gim being Welsh.
To be honest with you, it just sounded like normal speak.
Did it?
Cheers, Gim.
Oh.
I appreciate
See?
that.
Learning the lingo, Rodri. That's what it is. Learning the
Fluent,
lingo.
mate. You're fluent.
Where are the shops?
Exactly. I said something to him in Welsh the other night when we were doing the test record for this, and he's like, "No, it's spelt like," or it said, "Oh, what was it, Rodri? I can't remember."
It was my home village, wasn't it? It was.
Podjules.
Yeah, Pontedilles. Yeah,
That's the one.
that's the one.
It's all the same
Fluent.
thing.
Fluent, mate. Fluent.
Exactly. It's almost as if I'm an honorary Rouse. Honorary Rouse.
Well, you're fucking up English. That's a good start. You're talking like English is a second language. Oh, you tit.
Quality.
Oh,
Have I paused myself?
Yes,
I have.
fucking idiot.
So, Ashley, if you'd like to tell all the people listening how your day went.
It was fantastic. It's one of the most. I've had some very, very good football and Arsenal experiences, and that has to rank up there with
one of the best, if not the best. It was a day where it was going from good to better and better, and by the end of the day I had a massive grin like a Cheshire cat on my face, and I don't think anything could have ruined my mood from the day. It was just a top day with fantastic company, and made some new friends, and watching the Arsenal beat that lot from Stoke. It was a top day.
Yeah, definitely. And Rodri, how did the day start? Where did you meet? Of course, you were there with Rev himself and the almighty Jeff Arsenal.
Correct, yeah. We met at Piebury Corner. I tucked into a Tony Adams pie at about 1:30, which was delicious. And then Jeff turned up a little bit later to meet up with us. And I mean, the two of them were absolute gentlemen. They gave us a real experience. They were generous in what they bought and what they gave to us, including their own time. They were so popular. I couldn't believe how many people came up and stopped to speak to the two of them outside Piebury Corner. It was like the who's who of Arsenal's social side, I suppose. And it just started there, and it built up and built up, as Ashley said, and culminated in meeting Jack Wilshere and Charlie George inside the ground.
Wow. And how did that come about? Did Jeff Arsenal pull a few strings for you?
That was just sheer coincidence for all of them. It was quite strange because we'd gone into the stadium and gone into the box, had a few photos down by our seats, and then Ryder's idea was to go and get another drink before the game. So we walked out to the bar, and as we're walking out to the bar, you have a corridor on the left-hand side, which goes to some of the other boxes. And Rodri pointed out and just said, "That looks like Jack Wilshere coming down the corridor. That's Jack Wilshere coming down the corridor." And it was just right place, right time. And then Winterburn and Charlie George just happened to be sitting about 10 seats to the right-hand side of us. So after once full time whistle went, we quickly ran over to them as quickly as they can without them being bombarded, and got a photo of them a bit quick.
Wow. And the burning question that's on everybody's lips is, did you manage to get a pint out of either of them?
I thought you were going to say, did Raj try and touch you?
Well, he is a reverend after all, so it's in the CV.
Did you see Jeff's face? And at the end of it, like in Men in Black, did you see a white light? And now you can't remember for your life what Jeff looks like.
That's exactly what happened.
Exactly what happened. Funny enough, yeah.
He's a sly old dog.
I bet you he came out drifting from a crowd, and then all of a sudden he was just there. He tapped his nose twice, and he went, "You ain't seen me, right?"
And then he crossed his arms and he floated away like someone walking on water.
Just floated back into the crowd and disappeared.
To the ether.
Yeah.
And you felt all warm and special and glowing and tingly for days.
The incredible thing is that I think I'm quite a positive person in life in general, and he comes along and just, I don't know, I've never met anyone like him. He's just the life and soul of Arsenal, I suppose. Everything is positive, everything is bright and shiny, and little unicorns flying everywhere. The guy's just amazing. It's great company.
Even when Walcott could have scored a hat-trick in the first half, he was, it's all right, he's going to get another one, and he was still positive about it, and, it's a great outlook on life, really.
Yeah, definitely so.
I hate the both
well, I'm certainly glad to hear that you've had a lovely day. We'll talk a little bit about the game itself now. I know this is a pre-record. We've recorded this.
Not at the moment it is, and it's live as we're doing it.
Right, yeah, it's live as we do it, but on the night it'll be a pre-record when it actually gets your magical fingers.
You can get on with it, might, if we don't die of old age waiting.
Why are you so miserable?
Because my kidneys are failing.
You can't die. The podcast is doomed.
I'll have to teach one of you how to press record.
Naturally, it's Kate. Kate can do it.
Yeah?
Yeah,
I'll fuck off then.
Yeah, bye.
Well, indispensable you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt special for minutes.
A Bergkamp Wonderland lives on. So, yeah, we'll talk about the game. Well, what did you boys make of the game itself? Was there any players that stood out for you who had a particularly good game? Was there anyone that impressed you guys? Rodri?
For me, I picked out two. I thought Ozil was majestic. It's the first time I've seen him play live, and he just glides along the pitch. I thought his distribution was excellent. He kept things ticking over. And then Francis Coquelin, I thought, was just superb. He just sat in front of the back four and did what he usually does, which is obviously tackle, and he's strong in defence. But I think he showed some lovely touches as well. I know he's been criticised in the past for his distributional skills, but I thought he moved the ball. He kept things simple and kept things ticking over in that area as well. Those two stood out for me.
What's he done now? Are you muting yourself again?
I've muted myself again. Sorry.
Oh,
3, 2, 1.
I'm not editing that out.
Why?
That's like you say 3, 2, 1. I think something's going to explode.
Well, it's going to sound Tin Pot.
Is it?
Yeah.
Go on in.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. And Ashley?
I basically mirror exactly what Rob Bruce just said. Ozil and Coquelin were my two best players for Arsenal, and again, it was the first time I'd seen Ozil play live, and it was just it just glides and everything's so smooth. There's, people think he looks slow, and when you watch it on TV, it does look slow, but he's 3 steps ahead of everybody else on that pitch. And it was just fantastic to see him watch. And Coquelin made some very important interceptions and some great tackles, and really broke up any offensive. Offensive chances that Stoke made for themselves.
And it seemed to me from watching the game we had an awful lot of possession, and we pretty much had the measure of Stoke from the first minute. How nice was it to see Arsenal play to the capacity that that they can? Rodri?
Yeah, it was great that I thought they moved the ball quickly on Saturday, which was great to see. But one big plus, I think, was, I know, having been to a few games at the Emirates before, I think the Arsenal crowd can get a little bit frustrated after a while if the chances keep getting missed. But I thought the crowd support on Saturday was fantastic. I thought they stayed really positive, even though there was chance after chance after chance going begging. They still maintained a high level of support for the team. I think that kept them going. One thing I wanted to say was, I thought, watching on television sometimes I'm quite critical of Theo Walcott, and because he has, less touches than a lot of players in the team. But I felt Saturday, watching him live, the amount of movement behind the defence he makes, the runs he makes, and doesn't get the ball often. But I thought he put 13, 40-yard sprints in continuously for the whole time he's on the pitch. And it's something you don't maybe see on television as much. When you're actually in the ground itself, he does get through an awful amount of work, during a game. So I found that quite surprising watching it live,
Yeah, definitely so. So we'll start to wrap this up then, and thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
And it's been so nice to hear from the competition winners, and so nice to hear that you had such a wonderful day. But we've got a game against Zagreb tomorrow night, and this will be going out after the actual game. So we will take our listeners' predictions for that game off of you. How good was that, Danny? Because I know you've forgotten.
Oh, had I? Yes. I'm just looking at buying a new van. I'm not taking
Really?
any notes. Yeah, I'm looking at a Volkswagen Transporter.
A new Pope chariot for yourself?
Well, it's one I would be driving. I'm going to sell the Merc. I should get about 15 grand for that, and then buy a van.
Oh no, you're selling the Merc.
Oh, I know. See if that will pay 3 grand to get my elbow fixed. One or the other.
Or option C, stop wanking.
Well, there is that.
Up for an award, people.
Hey.
Quality material like that is going to make us back-to-back winners.
Classy bird, Dave.
So, before we cut this off then, can I have some predictions for Zagreb? And we'll start with you, Ashley.
I know he's resting. Ramsey and Bellerin have not travelled with the squad. So I'm going to go for Ox first scorer and 2-0.
Fantastic.
Oh, he's done a bit of a Jeff there, nearly.
He has. Rodri?
Yeah, I was going to say 2-0, but I was going to go with Giroud. I just think the defence is looking solid. It is a Jeff, yeah. Am I allowed to go 2-0, or do I have to pick a different score?
Pick whatever you want.
I'll go 2-0 Giroud.
Fantastic.
Oh, that does sound like you know what you're on about. Go and put some money on it, and if you win it, we want half.
Danny?
Half it is.
Hello.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
How many, have you two been to games before?
Yes.
Yes.
So it wasn't new to you then.
No, this is what I said to Rodri on Saturday as well. Is I've been quite lucky to go to some big games and quite a lot of games, and I would have happily sat here knowing that somebody had gone to a game for the first time and experienced Arsenal for the first time. You know, I've been to a lot of games, but as it was, I met Jack Wilshere, so I couldn't give a fuck now.
That's wonderful.
I haven't been to quite as many games as Ashley, but I have the one stat which I hope Arsene Wenger can hear on this, and that is I've never seen anyone score against Arsenal at the Emirates. I think I've watched 6 or 7 matches, and so far they've won every single one. I've not seen one goal conceded. So if that doesn't get me a place on the bench, I don't know what will.
Well, I think we should all club together, and when that shit up the road come to the Emirates, Rodri, we're going to pay for you to go.
I suppose one final question. You both donated a tenner. Was it the best tenner you've ever donated?
It's just £10 well spent.
It was very well spent.
And when we were doing the live draw, because you came out... Oh, you came out first, Rodri.
I did, yeah.
And Ashley, you come out 5th. You were third backup.
I've still no idea how I went. I really don't have a clue. I even watched it live, and you called my name out, and as my wife entered the room, I was like, yes, I'm in the draw for the ticket. She goes, have you won? I said, no, I'm 5th place, so I've got as much chance as you going.
Well, all we're going to say, Ash, is that Jason, Akshay and Rahil haven't been seen since the draw, so it's a bit fishy how they've all disappeared, and the bloke who come 5th choice has won it. So there you go.
I know nothing about nothing, and I'll hide that knife very soon.
Hashtag be kind to Ashley.
Oh, dear. Anyway, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you all very much. It was a fantastic day, fantastic weekend, but a fantastic day as well. Yeah, brilliant.
And most of the thanks has to go for you lot for all donating, but mostly for Jeff and Raj for organising.
Oh, absolutely,
you beautiful,
absolutely.
sexy bastards.
Top day with some real nice blokes, and it was fantastic.
Jolly good. That's a great point to end it on, Gim.
Yeah, and that's a wrap, people. So thank you very much, Ashley and Rodri, for joining
Cheers,
me.
guys.
Thank you.
Brilliant.